And we're back here with another review of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Today we're talking about episode 2, and if you thought the first episode was good, this one was probably even more exciting. There's just so much to cover here today between the Zemo reveal at the end, but really everything that came before it was really, really good for a variety of reasons. We found out there was a black super soldier at one point, and he's still he's still alive, he's still out there, that being Isaiah Bradley. We'll talk about that. The potential debut of the Patriot, John Walker's real debut as Captain America on the episode, his run-ins with Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes, and all this other stuff. There's just so much stuff to get to in this review. But as always, we're being joined by the Doc, Chris Mueller. Chris, what's going on today, dude?
Not much.
And Phil, you're back here as well at PhilDL616 on the Twitter machine. What's going on, Phil?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. Phil, I'll start with you. We were kind of praising this episode before we went on the air here about how good this episode was for a variety of reasons, and how for you this show being different than WandaVision in that there was stuff that you were excited about and you were emotional about with that show. With this one, even more so after watching this episode. What was something about watching this episode that got you really excited for the rest of the season?
Oh, man. So when they got to the door and, well, first of all, the fact that Bucky knew who a certain character in this episode was really exciting. Mm-hmm. And then when they got to the door and I could see Eli behind the door, I got super excited. I was like, that's Eli. Right away, I was like, that's definitely Eli.
So we have Eli's debut, and again, we'll get into all of this in a second. So that was one thing that excited you about this episode. What about you, Chris? Because you sent us the DM yesterday morning when the episode went up, and of course we're recording this on Saturday, but what was like the big takeaway for you from this episode? Something you were like, okay, holy shit, like this is pretty cool. I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen next.
Bringing in Elijah Bradley, I think, is the biggest thing, and I want them to expound on that. I don't want that to just be a one-time thing. Carl Lumley, the actor that they brought in, has had his fingerprints over a ton of comic book stuff over the years. So seeing him in this just makes me happy. He's appeared on Supergirl. He's done the voice of Martian Manhunter on a bunch of cartoons. He's been in a whole bunch of stuff over the years that I've really liked. So seeing him on here was awesome. But seeing Eli and Elijah on the screen, like, we didn't get Eli name dropped, I don't think. It was just Elijah who was confirmed, mm-hmm. right? So seeing those two together in there with Sam and Falcon, like, that was just, or with Sam and Bucky, like, that was probably the most emotional scene that the show's had so far, because you got Elijah talking about how, instead of getting a medal in a parade, he got thrown in jail for some reason. We're not really completely sure about what's going on, but all these people were doing experiments on him, including some Hydra people. And it's just like, man, he pulled that scene off so wonderfully, and I'm so curious to see if they're going to do more with those characters. I really hope they do, because there's so much potential that they could either go back and show us some of Elijah's story through a prequel movie or a series or something, or just to continue on with Eli and work towards building the Young Avengers.
Elijah? I thought it was Isaiah.
Yeah, is it Isaiah or wasn't it Elijah? It's Isaiah. Eli's Isaiah. Like, Eli's like short for I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm confused here. So, okay, Isaiah. Yeah, but yeah, either way, if they go prequel route and show us some of Isaiah's stuff, or if they go forward with Eli, either way, I just want them to do more than just have that quick cameo.
Yeah, well, it's funny, too, because so much of this was, I feel, touched upon in Civil War. This is almost like how we talked about with WandaVision, how that kind of felt like a sequel of sorts to Age of Ultron. This one, it kind of feels like a sequel of sorts to Civil War, part of that being not only with like the Zemo stuff, obviously, but more so with the more super soldiers being out there. As far as this show goes, and the debut here of Isaiah and Elijah as well, Eli, where do you guys think this is going in this show? Because obviously so many other things are being covered already, from, who's going to take the mantle for Captain America, all this other stuff going on right now. Where do you think this specific storyline is going?
Well, I'd be surprised if they go and they fully flesh out the Isaiah stuff from here. Mm-hmm.
I definitely think this is a building block for Eli because they're clearly putting together the Young Avengers. They've introduced a member of the team in almost everything they've done over the last few years. So I think this is definitely leading to that. And we got the Power Broker name drop, which I was like, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Clearly, like the Power Broker is related to the stuff with Isaiah. And I assume that, that's how we get the Power Broker stuff, is that he was a part of that experimentation with Isaiah.
Mm-hmm. Is the Power Broker character a part of his character arc? I'm not familiar with that. Who that is?
Well, the Power Broker is sort of, a part of his character arc, but he's more of a part of John Walker's character arc.
Oh, okay.
So that's what makes it even more interesting that we got the Power Walker. I mean, not the Power Broker name drop.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm kind of curious because that makes me wonder if the route they're going to go is maybe the Power Broker approaches John Walker and possibly Lamar too, because he also went to the Power Broker at one point.
Right.
So maybe they decide, like, we need to level up, get on Cap's level, and actually be super soldiers like everybody else. Because even though it seems like this John Walker guy is pretty good, the moment that girl got her hands on him, she knocked his ass off the truck. So
yeah,
I don't know, man. I think this all fits in my theory from last time with you guys, where I was saying he's a plant. Maybe he's not necessarily a plant, but he knows more than he's putting on. I really do believe that. There were a few things he did in this episode where I was like, this guy's not on the up and up. What we know, especially now that we know that this Cap is John Walker, and I mean, his suit is pretty close to the USA agent costume.
Yeah.
So now that we know it's John Walker, I'm even more firmly in the belief that this guy is not on the up and up, because John Walker started as a villain. And John Walker is like not a great guy in the comics. Like he's an ultra right leaning guy. I don't think they're gonna lead into his politics that much, but he's an ultra right leaning character in the comics, and like he pretty much goes nuts at one point and kills people in his hometown, which I thought it was cool that they used his real hometown in the show. It was Custer Grove.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and even like his real high school and all of that stuff is straight out of comics. Mm-hmm. But I'm assuming that he already has powers and he is concealing it because he threw that shield way too well in those training videos.
I was going to say, that was one thing that stuck out to me too.
And for his first time using it, I was like, yeah, I don't know about that. And just how well he was moving. I mean, even for just a regular guy with training, he was moving really, really well. He was fighting really well for somebody that's just a normal guy. And the fact that when they first got there with the Flag Smashers and afterwards they asked, oh, well, how did you find us? And they go, oh, we tracked you through Red Wing. I was like, I don't know about that. Maybe it's that Power Walker knows that those guys were trying to break into that truck and he sent you to dispatch them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of going off of that, I was surprised to see how, obviously with Bucky and Sam and whatever, but like that John was able to hold his own against the other super soldiers. Like he must be holding something back that we don't know. I don't know if I would go so far as to say he is one of the villains. I don't get the gist that he is. I just get the sense that he's just ignorant, especially with the line where he was like, oh, I'm not trying to replace Steve. I'm just trying to be the best Captain America that I can be. But it's like, dude, like obviously it's not just like a suit that you put on. I think a lot of Steve Rogers is Captain America, and I think they kind of illustrated that pretty well in his interactions with Sam and Bucky. But yeah, no, like at the end of that scene when he gets like kicked through the windshield of the car, like he didn't have a scratch on him after that. Like if that was I know it's a fucking Marvel movie, but like he showed up at the police station when Bucky was arrested later on in the show, and he was completely fine. Like he didn't have a scratch on him. So I think there is definitely something to that.
How weird was it, though, that, like, 10 seconds before that, he throws his shield down and saves Lamar. There was no car behind that truck, which means that car, like, steered around Lamar and then caught up to the truck. Why?
I feel like it's some dumb Marvel thing.
It's the most conveniently placed car in Marvel
Did you guys catch that? It's a callback to when Cap got knocked off of that truck and landed the same way on that car.
What movie was that?
Ultron?
I think it was Ultron. Like it's exactly like
fighting Ultron on the truck, right?
It's the same way he lands backwards on that windshield.
Oh, interesting.
Huh. I wonder if that was intentional.
I assumed it was when I saw it because immediately that's what I thought.
Yeah. We got to talk about the exchange that they have in the truck, because I know last week we talked about how this is all leading towards Falcon taking up the Captain America mantle, but I think this episode went a long way towards at least making me understand why he wouldn't want to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the part when he goes, I want Cap's wingman by my side, and he goes, it's always that last line. I don't think he resents being Steve's friend, but he maybe resents being looked at as the sidekick. He wants to be his own man and carve his own legacy as a hero or whatever you want to call it. So the idea of continuing the mantle of Captain America might not be as appealing to him as we all think it would be, And I think this episode, especially that scene with the therapist, when he's like, can you just understand that I did what I thought was right? I think this episode went a long way towards making, at least for me, making me understand why he wouldn't just want to automatically be Captain America.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they've definitely heavily hinted at, both in this episode and the last one, that he's trying to establish his own identity from the scene at the bank in the last episode where the guy, he was like, oh, I didn't recognize you without the wings or something like that. And you have that same exchange here when they're, the interaction with the police, which we'll get to, was a big part of this episode too. And they didn't know who he was. Yeah, we got to talk about that. But they didn't know who he was until after Bucky pointed it out. He's like, do you know who this is? And oh shit, I'm so sorry, Mr. Wilson, blah, blah, blah. So it definitely feels like they want him to establish his own identity and not be the next Captain America, which is great. Do you think Bucky obviously is pissed that, because he was there for the exchange when Steve told him, hey, take this, I want you to, he didn't say be the next Captain America, but he wanted them to take the shield. Do you think Bucky, obviously he's pissed that he gave the shield back to the government. Do you think he's pissed that he didn't want to be Captain America? He never actually said that, but I'm not sure if that was something that he was implying.
Well, he dropped the line of the episode when they were in the prison cell and the therapist came in and he was like, he has to be right about you, because if he's wrong about you, he's wrong about me. And I legitimately teared up because I was like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it felt like to him it was really important for him for there to still be that connection to Steve, and if it feels like if Falcon severs that connection, then it's lost for him too, almost.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I think last time we talked about it, I think there's this idea that they have Steve on such a high pedestal. And so if Steve believes in them, then that means a lot to both of them. And it means different things for both of them. It definitely means something to Bucky because he's known him longer. But I think in that scene, he's basically saying, no, this is his wishes and this is what he would want to do. So that's what we should do. And, I think he's missing the part that Sam has his own life and he has his own things he wants to do. And that's just a heavy burden to pick up. But I think in his mind, he's just thinking no, we're doing this in service of a greater man.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely seems like it's important for Bucky, for somebody to carry on the Captain America mantle, who Steve actually endorsed as well.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We still haven't established where Steve is at this point.
Yeah.
So
the other funny thing about that scene is we're essentially watching Bucky have a conversation with Captain America and Bucky, because that's what Lamar is to this version of Captain America. He's Bucky. But he just stopped calling himself Bucky in the comics and started calling himself Battlestar, which is also hilarious. As soon as he calls himself Battlestar, he's like, yeah, I'm out of here.
that was the thing that pissed him off and was like, stop the car.
Yeah, I know. Of everything they said, yeah. No, that was a great scene too. So yeah, no, I guess we'll see. I think that seems, obviously we talked about how the main theme of the show seems to be who's going to take over for Captain America and Sam's kind of relationship with that and whatever. And I think they delved even deeper into that with this episode, which I thought was really well done. They also gave us more character development with the Flag Smashers too, and we got to know not who the leader was, but the redheaded girl whose name escapes me. I know, isn't that someone prominent from the comics, or is that a character for the show?
Carly Morgenthau.
Is that her character's name or the actress?
That's the character's.
Okay.
Her name is a play off of Carl Morgenthau, which is Flag Smasher in the comic book.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So it's like they just added the I and gender switched it to Carly Morgenthau.
Now, what I'm really curious about is they make it seem like she's almost turning against the people who are funding them at this point, because they're like, oh, it's the power brokers men, they're coming. But she also still seems dedicated to this cause of getting the world back to the way it was before the blip was fixed. So it's like, who's the power broker siding with then?
That's why I think the truck and John Walker showing up when he did are related, because I think whatever they stole off of that truck belonged to a power broker, and that's why he sent her that text that said, you took something that belonged to me, I want it back.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that being labeled vaccines was a red herring, that it wasn't vaccines?
Yeah, I definitely don't think it's vaccines. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like either the serum or like growth hormone.
You think that was a pickup when they started filming again after the pandemic started, where they're like, we need to put in a mention of vaccines?
Maybe.
I can see that.
So, I got to ask before I forget about this. So, this show was, does anyone remember when this show was originally like set to release before the pandemic pushed everything back? Because we were supposed to get this first.
The fall, I think. Last fall. Pretty sure.
So, could you imagine what the response would have been like had we had the scene with the police going up to Falcon and Bucky, like right around when all the BLM protests and stuff were happening? Like,
yeah.
I mean,
I wonder. I'm curious if that was something that they added later on as a reaction from those events, because they had the time to do more things once they picked up filming, or if it was something they always intended and it just became more culturally relevant after everything that happened.
I think it was all organic. I think it's related to everything. I think it's related to the bank scene. It had the same connotation of him being profiled. Even if you cut it back to the conversation he had with the kid right before that, and he called him Black Falcon, that's totally a tie-off of every black comic book character had to have black in front of their name. Black Vulcan, Black Lightning, whatever.
Black Panther.
Just because they were black characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he's like, so what does that make you, black kid? And then, and then he starts laughing with his buddy.
Yeah, it was funny.
But yeah, that scene when he comes up to him and he immediately looks at Bucky and says, is this guy bothering you? It's just like, oh my God.
No, so yeah,
like,
I'm watching this.
That happened in a Disney thing at all.
Well, he did say shit 2 times during the episode, so I'm like, I was wondering what this show was rated. I mean, the police stuff wouldn't really matter with the rating, I wouldn't think, but like...
PG-13.
Is it PG-13? Yeah. Okay. I thought you could only say shit once, or you can say shit a bunch of times.
No, that's the F word.
Okay, gotcha. That makes more sense. No, but yeah, I thought the police scene was like the best part of this episode, because it wasn't just like subtly done where like they saw the two of them arguing and they kind of gave Bucky the same treatment. Like you just said, Chris, they were like, oh, is this guy bothering you? They said that to Bucky. So, like, they were very on the nose with this thing. And I thought that was... I was wondering the same thing. I was curious if they added it in. But you're probably right, Phil. It probably was organic. And it's just even more relevant now. I mean, it would have been relevant anyway, but it's even more culturally relevant now. But yeah, that was such a great scene, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's written and produced by a black man. So I think he put those things in there very intentionally. I mean, just having it right after the Isaiah scene is perfect, too, because it's like, no, it doesn't matter who you are or what you have done. Some people will only look at you for your race. And I think that is one of those things that Sam has said without saying, and he's basically like, look, it doesn't matter if I carry that shield and I put on Cap's suit, some people will still look at me as a black man, and they will not follow me. They will not see me as, a beacon of hope in the same way that they see Steve.
Yeah.
And then you got the fact that, like, a moment later, they have to arrest Bucky, and they're all apologetic about it.
Yes.
Like, I'm so sorry, sir, that we have to do this, that I have to put these cuffs on you, Mr. White Man. It's like,
yeah.
the fact that Disney was willing to do this stuff and give them that much leeway, like, you gotta applaud them a little bit, because you don't expect that level of cultural awareness in your Disney stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's everything they've done with John Walker so far is there are very, very small nods to things that I didn't expect them to do. I mean, the fact that they immediately made Captain America propaganda again.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even I when I watched it, a little bit of it earlier today, I watched a little bit of it for a second time. I noticed the second time that the band is playing a version of Star Spangled Man with a Plan.
Oh, okay.
I also noticed that, like, the entire band and most of the dancers were black as well.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, interesting.
It's a southern town he's in. I can't remember, like, it's Cosgrove, whatever, Custard Grove. I can't remember what state that's in. I want to say it's Georgia.
I don't remember if they specified. I just know that they were at his high school.
Yeah, I think it's Georgia, but there's so many things in the way he talks in that interview that just look off. I am about 100% sure this guy's going to be a villain.
Yeah.
Like, it's too many things he's
after
doing.
They come out of the police station, he gets their attention by flashing the cop siren at him. What a dick.
Yes. And then, I mean, even him saying, stay out of my way, and the way he did it, it was just, I mean, he did an interview, like, after the first episode, he was like, I hope people don't hate me too much as Captain America. And I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure you're the bad guy. I could just see it.
Yeah.
Or I could at least see him being, like, a misguided person that maybe Bucky and Falcon can convince, don't do this and don't work with Zemo or whatever he ends up trying to do. Like, because I felt like the beginning of the episode really tried hard to get you to like him. Like, you see him reminiscing in his high school locker room. He's talking to his wife or girlfriend, whatever she's supposed to be.
It's his wife, I think.
It's his wife. Okay. Was she pregnant?
I don't know. I didn't get a feel that she was pregnant.
Yeah.
I don't remember if they shot her from, like, anything but, like, the shoulders down. So, and then, like, he was talking about how he's like, I don't want to let people down. And then he was talking to Lamar, and he's like, I just want to do the job. And Lamar's like, well, this is part of the job, man.
Yeah.
Like, you're a spokesperson and a soldier now. And the fact that he showed up at the truck thing, like, that is a good call, Phil, that might be connected to the power broker. But I was just surprised to see him in action so soon after his introduction.
Yeah,
Right.
I thought he would show up, like,
they only have
afterward.
6 episodes, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, just the kind of clearance he has already, I was like, some of this doesn't feel right.
Yeah,
There's something off here.
Bucky's mandatory therapy removed.
Yeah.
Like, how's that? Yeah.
There's a few things that are off about this guy, but that's John Walker to a T. What I know about him in the comic is he's eventually stripped of the name Captain America, and that's why he started going by U.S. Agent, because he killed a bunch of people. So this guy is going to do something bad in this series. It's almost inevitable.
Do you think this might not be related to that, but at the end of the therapy session, the therapist said to Bucky, she reiterated one of their rules was that don't hurt anyone. Do you think that might have something to do with him as opposed to just Bucky?
I can see that, but I think that was more of Bucky.
Wasn't a few moments later when he's like, let's take the shield? Wasn't that like right after that?
Hey, he's not hurting anyone. He
were-
wants to take the shield.
I think that was when they were on the plane coming back to America, wasn't it?
I can't remember if it was before or after they got arrested. I just remember Falcon's response, like, you can't just run up on a man, beat him up, and take the shield.
Yeah. I thought that was on the flight back from Germany, and he was saying, remember last time when we took the shield?
Yeah, and they name drop Sharon, which makes me think she's showing up in the next episode.
Oh yeah, I forgot about her. Yeah, they're bringing everyone back. What were we gonna say, Phil?
Yeah, I don't know, man. There were a few things in this episode that just made me think like this guy knows more than he's putting on. Even if he's not enhanced, he probably knows. Like even when they mentioned that the one guy was too strong for his Flag Smashers, he didn't seem like surprised by that.
Yeah, even though the little girl knocked him off the truck.
Yeah, I don't know. And he seemed very much wanting like Falcon and Bucky to work with him. Like, no, work with us. Like we're on top of this. We got this. And it was almost like, no, we want to see what you're doing, so you won't get us in trouble or you won't tell somebody else. Like, and then even again, once they were like, we don't want to work with you, he was like, okay, stay out of our way.
Yeah, that scene, there was a tense exchange when Bucky's like, you're under a lot of pressure, aren't you, Walker? And he kind of gives him a real mean sneer. I was just like, oh, that's a little bit of a sign of something, a little anger.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think this Cap is not on the up and up, man.
He just gives me.
Do you think Lamar is, and will that like cause a rift between them, or do you think they'll just consistently be a duo?
That's a good question, because I mean we already know like Lamar is connected to Power Broker in the comics.
Yeah.
So they might both know the Power Broker already. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm wondering if they're going to go the route of the Power Broker is using another version of the super serum, or if they'll do something else.
Yeah, I want to see if they're doing like the MGH in this, because what we know in the comics is that's how Eli gets his abilities. Is he claims that he got his abilities from his father, who's Josiah X, who is Isaiah's father, because Isaiah's his grandfather. So in the comics, he lies and says that he inherited his abilities from his dad, but in reality, he was taking MGH, which is meta growth hormone, or I think
that's what it stands for.
So I'm wondering if this is like another version of the serum, or if this is their way of introducing MGH to the MCU.
I'm wondering if we're going to get Carl Malice at all, because he's kind of associated with the Power Broker a lot, but they used him in Jessica Jones, so I don't know if they'll use him again right away.
Yeah, I really want them to use Nitro again, and he was in Jessica Jones.
I don't know. It would be fun to see any of those people come back, frankly.
Was there anything else from the episode that really stood out to you guys? Because I feel like we covered everything. I know we didn't really get into the interaction itself between Falcon and Bucky. I mean, we kind of covered it with some other stuff, but like I thought the therapy scene, obviously it was kind of like the pure comedy gold of the episode. But I thought that was good. Do you guys know what the end game might be there with their not friendship, because they're not really friends, but they tried to say like, hey, once we get done with this mission, I never really want to see you again. But clearly you could tell from the way they were talking to each other, they'll come out of this thing best friends. But do you guys think this might go in a different direction?
Well, that's the thing. Nobody's forcing them to work together in the first place.
Yeah.
Like, Bucky volunteered for all of this.
Yeah.
So he has no right to complain about anything. I think for Falcon, there might be a genuine sense of annoying, like he's annoyed by Bucky a little bit at times. But I think for Bucky, like, this is the closest thing he has to a friend besides Steve. And I don't think he really has Steve now. We don't know where Steve is.
Yeah. What's
going on. So, like, This is really his only chance to connect to somebody outside of Wakanda, apparently.
Yeah. I just really like the tone of the show and how close it is to Lethal Weapon. Like, I was sitting during the end credits, like just like the guitar in the end credits reminds me of Lethal Weapon. Like everything about it, like the way they talk to each other it's so close to that relationship.
It's pretty good, especially the early Lethal Weapon stuff before they were all buddy-buddy. Like, by the fourth one, they're genuinely, like, best friends, you know?
Right. But, yeah, I'm wondering, I still believe that this is all leading to Sam taking up the shield and becoming Captain America.
Mm-hmm.
I think showing him that before Steve, or I mean, not before Steve, before him, and even Steve didn't know that there was a black super soldier. I think that's a part of, you know, saying, like, no, the mantle of Captain America isn't just Steve's. It's bigger than that.
Yeah. It's also cool that Bucky has been keeping tabs on this guy since he, you know, like, he might even be on his list of people he needs to make amends with.
Yeah.
But he's just like, you know, tell him it's the dude from Go Yang. And then we find out that that Isaiah whooped his ass and took half his arm.
Yes, I loved that. I loved that whole change.
That was so good.
I love that he already knew him, too.
So good.
Yeah. No, that was a great scene. I'm glad they kind of went into that, too, and kind of gave you some backstory with the Isaiah character. And you guys already mentioned that you think he probably will pop up again. Do you think he'll pop up again in the show, or when do you think we might see him again, or maybe another movie?
Oh, he's going to pop up again for sure, because we're going to see Eli again. Like,
we have to.
I mean, because we're going to see something with those characters again. I would love it if they did more with just those two characters and like a solo thing. But I don't know. That's kind of wishful thinking at this point. I'm just excited that they did anything at all, because I mean, that comic that they're from. That's not talked about a lot. So the fact that they went out of their way to use it is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of different people in and around the Captain America mythos that they can draw on, and they've been picking cool people so far. It's so clear that they're building to a Young Avengers, though. Like,
yeah,
you know, Yelena Belova is going to be part of it after the Black Widow movie. Obviously, we're going to probably get Wiccan and Speed back at some point. We have Kate Bishop coming in. Ant-Man's daughter is probably going to get her first super suit in the next Ant-Man movie. Like, it's all coming together within 5 years.
I'm telling you, if we get a end credit scene with Old Man Cap coming back and bringing that team together, that would be so awesome.
That would be awesome. It'd be cool if it was him and Carl Lumley just running things from behind the scenes while everybody goes and does missions. I'd watch the hell out of that show.
I forgot to ask you. You brought it up earlier, Phil, and I forgot to ask you. But when you mentioned Sam becoming the next Captain America, which, you know, we've talked about that before, do you think they would call him Captain America, or do you think? Because part of me, we talked about this before. I mentioned this earlier about how they don't really know who Sam is without seeing him in his costume. They don't know that it's Falcon. They just see some any ordinary guy, and they're like, oh, you know, whatever. But they recognize Bucky. It was weird. It was a really weird thing. Do you think? I mean, obviously, it might have to do with the race thing too. But do you think it might be because he's trying to do his own thing? He doesn't want to be just the Falcon. He doesn't want to be known as Captain America. He wants to be known as Sam. If that makes sense.
I think it's twofold. I think one thing is, I think they're very much trying to drive the point home that Sam has seen things that your average person has not seen. Mm-hmm. And he's helped to save the world. And a part of the world will still only see him as a black man. Mm-hmm. And then the second part of it is, it almost feels like Sam is taking the easy way out. And I think he's trying to justify it by saying, I did the right thing, I took the shield back. But I think it's a cop-out. I think he doesn't want to accept the burden of being Captain America. And I think it's partially because he's black and he doesn't believe that some people will believe in him in the same way that they believed in Steve. Mm-hmm. But I think he just doesn't see himself the same way that Steve sees him. And Steve believes that, you know, he could be Captain America. He just doesn't believe it yet.
Yeah. Do you think if he takes over for Steve, and I haven't read the comics, so I'm not sure, would he wear like the same suit, or would it be kind of like his own version of it?
I think he wears his own version of the suit. Yeah. I think he still used the wings because in the comic he still uses the wings.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, and if he doesn't take any kind of serum, which I don't think they should have him do, then keeping the wings sort of gives him that edge and, you know, makes him a little comparable. Because I loved in the scene when they were scoping out the warehouse when Bucky's like, come on, I have a vibranium arm. I could take him. He's like, and I can fly. Who gives a shit?
But the other great thing about that scene is, again, it is driving home why Bucky was not chosen and why Sam was. Because Sam had a plan. And that was the whole thing. He was like, nope, not yet, not yet. Even when they were in a plane, and it's a direct call back to Steve and Tony and when they were about to jump out of the plane. And he was like, do you have a plan? He was like, yeah, I have a plan. He just wouldn't tell Bucky what it was. He just jumped out of the plane first.
Oh, he was like, what's your plan of attack? Yeah, my plan is attack, or whatever it was in that first Avengers movie. Yeah, no, that was great. Kind of going off of that, they mentioned in the therapy scene when they were going back and forth, Bucky said to Sam, well, if you're not going to take the shield, if he was wrong about you, then maybe he was wrong about me. What do you think he was trying to get at there?
I think he's still trying to find his redemption. I think he still sees himself as a bad person for everything he did as Winter Soldier. Mm-hmm. And I think, you know, we already know everything Steve did to give him his life back. We saw that all through Civil War and everything else he did, taking him to Wakanda and giving him time to deal with everything that was going on. And I think Steve's reassurance and letting him know he believed in him meant a lot to him. So if for Sam to say, you know, I don't care that he believes in me, I still want to do things my own way, he's looking at it like, well, what does that mean for me? Because he believes in me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. We'll see. What about you, Chris? What were your thoughts in that exchange?
Oh, yeah, I think that's exactly right what Phil said. Bucky is haunted. I mean, we've seen him having these nightmares about the things he's done, and he's trying to make amends, but it doesn't seem to be helping him psychologically. So, yeah, like I said before, with this, he's sort of reaching out to Sam because that's the only person he really has any connection to other than Steve at this point in his life. So, you know, going on a date with that girl was super awkward for him. You know, his old friend is really the father of a guy he killed, and like that's all out of guilt. The dude's almost torturing himself at this point. So I think he's looking for a reason not to. Like he wants a reason to believe in himself, and I think if Sam embraces what Steve saw in him, then it gives him the freedom to embrace what Steve saw in him too, which is the good person that he knew when he was younger.
Yeah.
Because in that first Captain America movie, Bucky is like the ideal patriotic soldier. Like he joins up because he wants to help America, and he's a POW that gets saved and gets right back in the fight, and you know, he's an honorable guy, and then he was forced to do all these terrible things. So to think about how that would weigh on somebody's psyche, of course they're going to think, I'm not worth saving. And, you know, his best friend thought that he was, so he's trying to hold on to that.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And I was kind of thinking along the same lines. I wasn't really sure if there was anything deeper into it, but I guess it is kind of just what it sounds like with him. Just kind of trying to redeem himself, and that's its own side story on this show as well. One last thing, I totally forgot to ask you guys about this, but obviously the Zemo reveal at the end, that was probably the best possible way to close out the episode, right? Kind of a cool cliffhanger for next week.
Yeah. I'm wondering what side Zemo is on in all of this, because we already know that Zemo is against powered people. So if we got Power Broker out there trying to give other people abilities in some way, I would assume that immediately pits Power Broker against Zemo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of Zemo being brought into the show immediately makes you think villain, but what if that's like a trick and he actually ends up working with our guys, at least for the time being. Maybe at the end of the show he escapes and goes on to do something else terrible, but it's possible you're right. Like, I could see him actually being against that, but I could also see him taking the stance of, if there's going to be powered people out there, then the power broker can help me even the playing field by giving me soldiers that can stand on the battlefield against them.
Mm-hmm.
So it could really go either way. I'm really curious to see what they do with this. The Zemo character they just barely scratched the surface in Civil War. Like, there's so much they can do with that guy, and that guy's a great actor too. So I'm really looking forward to this next exchange. Like, when they go visit him in prison, I have a feeling that's going to be very entertaining.
I think there's already been a shot in the trailers of Bucky pulling a gun on him too, so we know that's coming. I'm pretty sure. We know that he wears in the mask of the show. We know that he wears the purple mask in the show too. Would that kind of give away that he definitely is a bad guy? Because if he's working with Falcon and Bucky, he probably wouldn't be wearing the mask, right?
Well,
yeah.
Common theme in comic books is that sometimes the villains will work with the heroes if there's a shared interest, and then they'll go back to being villains. So, like, sometimes you have Doctor Doom helping Iron Man with something, because if they doesn't, then Doctor Doom is going to be wiped out too. So it all kind of plays into that whole thing of, if it helps Zemo in some way and gives him an opportunity to get out of prison, yeah, he's going to take them up on the opportunity to get out of prison.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, we don't know how he gets out of prison. I mean, part of him wearing the mask is probably because he's a fugitive. I don't know. And I mean, of course, we had to see the Zemo mask at some point. They never used it in Civil War. So I'm sure that was on the to-do list when they decided to bring it back. But yeah, I'm very curious as to what he was doing. When I assumed Captain America was a plant, I wouldn't have been surprised if he was working with Zemo, because one of his biggest claims to fame was planting the Thunderbolts as a good guy team, and they turned it out to be the Masters of Evil.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
I'm just wondering if they'll go so far with John Walker that he'll do something irredeemable, because eventually he turns around in the comics and ends up like being part of the Avengers at one point. Like, yeah, he's not all bad all the time, but I just don't know which way the show's going to go with him, because this episode, it does, and maybe this is all just a red herring, but it does lay these seeds for, like, this is a good guy who's being thrown into a situation that he might be a little in over his head.
Yeah, I definitely think he's going to do something to prove unworthy of carrying a shield. Yeah, I definitely think he's going to, even if it's not totally irredeemable, I think it's going to be something bad enough where he's seen as unworthy.
Well, and you know, we saw wasn't there a clip in the trailer of Falcon practicing with the shield?
Yeah.
Yeah, when he throws it in the tree, right?
At some point, he's got to get it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we see him throw the shield in a trailer in his Falcon suit too.
Yeah.
I love the part in this fight when they were on the thing when Bucky caught the shield and handed it back to him. Just so like, here, you almost lost this.
So great.
Oh man! And then when like the girl breaks Red Wing, and he's like, "Oh, I always wanted to do that."
Yeah, Bucky. Oh man, Bucky throughout this episode, like even at the beginning when he was watching the Captain America stuff on the TV, and you could just see he immediately doesn't like this guy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's just sitting there with his mouth open, like, "What the fuck am I watching right now?"
Yeah. I like this shot when they showed him sitting on the ground. You can kind of see his bed stuff, the blanket or whatever on there. Unless I missed it, it was something just random. But it looked like he kind of drove home what you guys said last week about how he sleeps on the floor.
Yeah, I got that idea too. That he was still sleeping on the floor. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, again, but see, that's why I think this is all different. Because I mean, even Sam trying to make it seem like it didn't bother him as much when he saw that they put another guy in a suit. I mean, he admitted that he was disappointed, but you could tell it really bothered at the end of last episode.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was was clenching his fists and gritting his teeth. He was pissed.
Yeah, he's fucking pissed. Yeah, no, I enjoyed the interactions between them and Walker on this episode because he's such a... My theory is still that he's not a full-fledged villain. They'll just do something. They'll find themselves in a situation where he'll just, like, fly away. Like, he just doesn't want to deal with it. He doesn't want to deal with whoever the actual bad guys are, aside from the Flag Smashers. And he'll prove to be unworthy in that way, where, like, okay, it's either put up or shut up time, and he'll just shut up. Like, he'll just leave. You know what I mean? Like, he'll just be like a wuss. So that's where I still think this is going. But, hey, if he turns out to be a villain, that's possible, too. Because I feel like... I was going to say if he was a villain, would they really show him, like... Would they really try to... Because they showed his time in the military, too. And it was funny when Sam, I think it was, he asked him, like, oh, would you jump on a grenade? Or I think it was Bucky. He's like, yeah, actually, I've done that 4 times or something like that. Like, you could tell the guy's just like,
the thing I do with a reinforced helmet, yeah, it's not important.
Yeah.
That was actually kind of fun.
That was fun.
Yeah, but see, again, that just... It just all tells me that he idolizes Steve in a different way than they do.
He looks like him, too.
Yeah.
And that's totally John in the comic. John idolizes Cap, but he has taken a political stance that Steve would never take. And
did you notice how he also was wielding a gun, and you almost, like, other than the first Captain America movie, you never really see him with a gun?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I noticed that right away. I also noticed it was just certain things, like doing the Good Morning America interview and just how he spoke during it. I was just like, yeah, something about this guy. I just think that they're just setting really subtle hints with him of, you know, this is what America would think Captain America would look like today. But, you know, kind of behind it, we don't know what he's really doing or what is his real motives, right? So, I don't know.
He's just unlikable. I mean, especially, like you said, during the interview scene at the beginning of the episode when they're in the middle of the football field. Like, they're doing the interview, and then she kind of cuts him off to play up his accolades. Like, would they have done that with Sam had he become Captain America? Probably not. Like, the way that they treat him on this episode, like he's this homecoming hero, and I know they were in his high school, it was just very bizarre. It gave me, like, Roman Reigns 2015 vibes. Like, the way they were over-pushing him, and as a result, I didn't like it. You know what I mean?
Yes, but... That's why I think he's going to end up doing something bad because like they are pushing really hard that this guy is the symbol, and like having all those posters everywhere with U.S. Army all over it, and you know, just trying so hard to make this guy propaganda. And I even thought like it was interesting that a lot of the fans in the stands when he was signing those toys, which is crazy, he has toys that fast, but a lot of them were black kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was going to say, that was another note that I noticed, too. It didn't look like him. It looked like Steve Rogers, Captain America. Was that definitely him? I mean, they look alike anyway, but, like, was that actually him?
It looked like him, I thought.
I wasn't sure. And it's interesting, too, because when you see all the signs, oh, Cap is back, it's like, he's not, though. Like, that's not Steve Rogers. Like, the way they keep saying, like, oh, he's back and whatever. It's like this guy that you can just put in the costume, and it doesn't matter who's under the costume as long as the costume is there. Like you said, he's a symbol. And the fact they had someone become the new Captain America, that was just not just the fact that he's another white guy, but literally has like the same type of hair, same hair color, same everything. Like he wasn't like different enough. Like it's almost a carbon copy. Like this is what we want Captain America to look like, so this is what we're gonna have it be. So I think the whole race stuff and whatever, I think everything kind of comes together so organically, and that's why I think the show has been really good so far. And again, like you said, I think they've only really scratched the surface of what they could do. You mentioned that with Zemo, but I think with this show, there's so much more they can go into, which is great.
Yeah, man, I can't say enough good things about this episode. I was really pleased with this episode.
Yeah. What about you, Chris? Any last thoughts?
Not really. I mean, this show is exceeding, I've said it on Twitter already, it's exceeding every expectation that I've had for it.
Yeah.
I mean, like, after WandaVision, I was like, all right, here we go back to the punchy beat-em-up stuff, but they're doing real character work. They're delving into some issues that I did not expect them to go into. It's nice. I'm enjoying it, and it's just too bad it's only 6 episodes. But this is one of those shows that does feel like it could get a second season. It doesn't feel like it's purpose built like WandaVision to only be one season, and I hope it does. I'd like to see more of these guys together. They work well together.
Yeah, I mean, my guess is it's only 6 episodes because they have to rename it Captain America and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Yeah, or Cap and Bucky, just...
yeah, something.
Yeah.
Or Sam and Bucky or something. Sam and Buck, that's what you can call it. Because I feel like Captain America and the Winter Soldier, that would almost sound too similar to the movie, Captain America 2. So, I mean,
yeah. I mean, and I just think it's cool that they've set up so many... Like, this isn't Captain America and Steve is not a part of it. This is not like a Steve show, but... There's so much Captain America lore all over this show. Yeah. I mean, everything is Captain America related in some way.
It gives me Far From Home vibes in that sense, and like what Iron Man was to Peter Parker on that movie. That's what Cap is to Bucky and Sam on this show so far, which I think is cool. And they're kind of, they're dealing with the immediate aftermath of Endgame and where he is. And they did say once, or John Walker did during his interview, he said, I want to be everything that Steve was, indicating that he's dead or gone. But, again, we have no idea what his status is. I'm sure we will get some sort of status by the end of the episode. I don't think they would just leave it open-ended for a reason. Marvel is pretty good about giving us answers to the things that we want to know, especially with as big of a question mark as that. But I'm sure we will find out in due time. But yeah, no, this was a really good episode. And like you guys said, I think the show has definitely exceeded expectations so far because we expected the same punchy, kicky vibe that Marvel is known for from this show coming off of WandaVision. But it's proven to be good in other ways. That WandaVision, it's just different. And for that reason alone, it's great. But yeah, this was great, guys. I'm looking forward to the next one. Phil, people can follow you on the Twitter machine at PhilDL616, and Chris, you're on the Twitter machine at BR_Doctor. Chris, Phil, this was awesome, guys. Thanks as always.
Thanks.
Yep. Thank you.